luggage.
Okay.
You can't motivate millionaires with the love of the game, with this is good for the sport, it's good for the brand. People like they give all this credit to like Michael Jordan and Larry Bird and Magic Johnson and even like the T-Macs of the world and the Kobes of the world. I'll pump the brakes with Kobe. Kobe didn't need All-Star Weekend to help lift his brand and to help sell more shoes. He's a maniac.
True. Wired differently.
Yeah, he's wired in that way, and he also was in an era that was close enough in proximity to the era where they actually competed at a high level to where it mattered to him. So let's take Kobe out of the picture and say, well, he needed to continue to promote himself so he can have Jordan brand and he can sell these Jordan shoes and people could be more enamored with the man who is Michael Jordan. Because guess what? His NBA contracts, I want to say somebody did a story recently where Michael Jordan's career earnings, right, like how much the greatest player to ever have played basketball made in his total career, which spanned a couple of different generations and a lot of years, is like, I think, less than a third of what, like, I forget who the guy was, not Kevin Durant, James Harden. If you look at James Harden's career earnings versus Michael Jordan, two shooting guards, two totally different impacts on the game, one of them getting super contract, mega extension after the other, like, it's harder to get James Harden to wake up for a regular season game, let alone an exhibition in the Bay that has no ramifications on your playoffs and whatnot, versus Michael Jordan, who is like, hey, Nike's knocking on his door. Yo, you show out, you do this dunk contest, you win it, you get on that stage and you impress people, you see more money in endorsements off the court, which is where you're making most of your money anyways. You can't motivate millionaires for the love of the game. You have to find a financial reason to incentivize them, and there is none. All-Star Weekend ain't getting fixed. They're not going to get competitive out of nowhere. They're only going to complain more about you making them do stuff they don't want to do.
It is remarkable because if you were to just do the normal logical addition to this, where we know the NBA is a star-driven sport. So what happens when you take the biggest and the best stars, you put them on one court?
Oh, yeah.
You might see the biggest and best basketball these eyes have ever seen. And it simply can't be any more further from the truth when the reality happens.
No.
So that's why the NBA's hands were forced. Like, if you're not going to try, no one's going to watch, why are we going to do this again? And it's not the literal definition of insanity, but it's insane to keep on trotting the players out there and doing the old-school all-star game format.
Yeah, you have to do something new. They had to try and change it. And I do believe that their changes kind of worked a bit. Like, I saw some competitive ball being played to an extent in some of those early matches. You're never going to get them to go full throttle because there's not enough on the line. But I did see some competitiveness, some defense. There was a lot of block shots, which they kept on pointing out on TNT. So I don't want to get too into the intricacies of what the basketball looked like over the weekend, but I do want to do this. I want to help people realize where we've lost the plot here. Number one, NBA All-Star Weekend still king over any other All-Star weekend, week, game, festivities in all of the pro sports. I know NHL, people like it. Ain't nobody watching that crap. I know that the NFL, nobody cares about the Pro Bowl. And you swear, it's funny. It's true. You look at the Pro Bowl for the NFL, I don't even remember what happened throughout that. I know there was a skills competition. Apparently Sam Darnold lighted it up. He lit it up. And then for Major League Baseball, the home run derby hasn't had juice for like the past decade in a way in which it used to matter. And All-Star Game, when did they stop giving the home field advantage to the winning team in the All-Star Game?
It's been about a decade now.
Yeah. So that whole thing is shaken up, and there's less juice around that as well. I still think that NBA All-Star Weekend does a great job of bringing the stars out, of having the parties around the city and really doing a takeover of the area that they bring All-Star Weekend to. It's still an event. It's still something that people want to be around and be involved in. And on top of that, if you look at it for what it is, C-Cat, and this is what it is to me, it's just fun. It's just fun. Some slight entertainment. Then maybe we stop putting so much pressure around the product being better on the court.
I would push pause. The NHL changed something this year. The Four Nations, I took Jonathan Zaslow's advice, and I watched it, and he's 100% right. Most All-Star games are less important and less of a draw to a casual sports fan than their favorite team's games or a playoff game. For me, watching the Four Nations was better than watching any regular season game, whether it be my favorite team, the Washington Capitals, whether it be a big game versus the number 1 and the 2 seed in the East or the West. No. This was different, and it was great. and it crapped all over what the NBA did this weekend.
You know what I'll say? That's fair for you to say because I also did not watch a second of that, but I did see some good reviews from it this year. But maybe this is the start of hockey making its All-Star Weekend a greater deal. But again, also, it's going to take a lot of catching up to make it as culturally relevant and as like nationally relevant as what the NBA has still on All-Star Weekend.
I don't know. You're starting from such a head start when you incorporate patriotism and country pride, whether it be the Finland or the Canada or the U.S., you start so much higher. You have a head start when you get people to care because generally Canadians like Canada.
Yeah.
Finlanders, the Finnish, right?
The Finnish. Yeah, the Finnish. I love that. That's a really good nickname, the Finnish.
The Finns?
I think it's the Finnish.
The Finnish?
Yeah.
The Finnish like the Finns. I think it's easier to get people to watch a sporting event when you have that prior biases and built-in rooting interests, and the product was good. So
it'll never reach NBA All-Star Weekend. I ain't gonna lie to you, bro.
On Thursday, watch it.
I will. I'll watch it. I'll give it a look. I'm just telling it's never going to reach NBA All-Star Weekend.
And it was a boost because of the current political conflict between Canada and the U.S., so that was kind of built in, ruined the anthem that kind of gave people to care even more than they normally would have, like a World Baseball Classic. So maybe it has legs past this year, maybe it actually doesn't, and we're kind of prisoner of the moment.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Speaking of legs, that's another reason why NBA All-Star Weekend you're never going to touch the cultural relevance of NBA All-Star Weekend. If you don't know what I mean by that insinuation, you haven't been to an All-Star Weekend. 888-760-3776.
I haven't. What are you talking about?
888-760-3776. Have you been to an All-Star Weekend?
No.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Can you tell me? Can you share the secret?
Oh, what am I talking about?
Yeah.
A lot of ladies. A lot of ladies out there. A lot of people trying to catch some residuals out there because of all of the celebrities and All-Stars and big names that come to town for All-Star Weekend. It's like Groupieville around there. And outside of the lore of the actual NBA players, there's a lot of like partying and stuff. Like it's a fun time to actually go to an All-Star Weekend. It's just less fun to watch on TV these days.
Okay.
I don't know if the NHL ever gets that.
Probably not. I was completely lost by your insinuation there.
You really didn't know that. Yeah, like the major parties are thrown. And a lot of them very exclusive and stuff. You have to kind of have some in-the-know stuff. It's similar to like a Super Bowl week.
Yeah, but these All-Star things, they're more TV products now more than ever, aren't they? So if you can translate that to the television, then it does nothing for me.
You're right. You're right. I mean, for you. But I'm just telling you, for the masses, still All-Star Weekend in the NBA is ahead of the bunch. Like Pro Bowl, who the hell cares about what's going on around the Pro Bowl?
Yeah, that's a lost cause because, like, the best Pro Bowl ever, no one can give you something.
No.
Like, it just doesn't exist.
I just remember the Sean Taylor hit on, who's the punter? Norman or something like that? The Bills punter?
Maybe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we actually have an example of an All-Star game in the NBA being good. So that's why we can fight. And right now it's so bad.
Yeah.
Baseball, there were previous All-Star games that might be more memorable. The Ichiro inside the park home run, Jeter winning the MVP. Like things like that happened in a game that went to 15 innings.
Yeah.
And it's not as good maybe than it was before, but it's not as much of a drop-off as of 20 years ago than it is now. The NBA, there is a drop-off.
We saw a very prevalent drop-off in the competition in the NBA, and that's what Jalen in our YouTube chat here has been saying. He said the level of competition is what people are looking for. You're right, Jalen. People are looking for the level of competition. It started teetering off when people didn't have to be competitive anymore because their brands became bigger than what All-Star Weekend can help them
that's true.
Proliferate it into. You can't motivate a millionaire for the love of the game.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Their bodies are too valuable because if you injure yourself, what good did that do you? And also, your brand is too big for you to need one little weekend under the sun. It's just not going to happen. 888-760-3776.